My name is Steve Zeltzer. I'm with United Front Committee for a Labor Party and also LaborTech.net. And we're here today in front of the home of Sam Altman, who is one of the leading AI techno barons in the United States. And this event actually is the first in front of this millionaire's house. He has a $5 million car. He bought, this house is worth $45 million. But the reason we're here today is to raise the question of the development of introduction of AI in the working class and in the public. Because what we have here is that these AI techno barons are scraping the internet, they're stealing voices, they're stealing data from people all over the world, and they're not compensating them. And it's kind of like the robber barons. We can say these are the tech robber barons of the 21st century. That's what we have here. And these robber barons are believe that they should be controlling the introduction of technology and AI in San Francisco and the world. They've gentrified San Francisco. They represent the billionaires. And the billionaires are now supporting, a large number of them are supporting Donald Trump, who said that he's going to deregulate. He wants deregulation. He wants complete control of these techno-fascists, really. The ideology of techno-fascism is that that they should run the world and that people are secondary to their profiteering that they do. And that's what they're involved in. They're profiteering off the development of this technology. And you have a situation where in San Francisco, they're homeless, there are people sleeping in the streets, people can't afford housing, and you've got the billionaires are growing in San Francisco. And they're cuddled by the Democrats and Republicans. There's no regulation. For example, the California Public Utilities Commission, which should be regulating the introduction of technology, has allowed Google autonomous vehicles, Waymo, unlimited access, and they're driving taxi drivers out of business, and they're putting the public in danger. One of the things about this technology and the control of the technology by the billionaires, and they have a former Cruz general counsel on the California Public Utilities Commission, is that in an earthquake, which we have in San Francisco, all these cars are going to automatically stop because they're based on the web. And everybody uses their cell phone, they'll close down. They can also not back up. So they're not following the DMV codes. They've been allowed by the legislature, controlled by the Democrats, to violate the code that drivers have to face. So drivers have to face this, but they don't. So the issue of these techno-fascists like Sam Altman and the arrogance that they have towards the people in this country and internationally is dangerous. And we think that this is an alarming thing, that these billionaires are in charge of this technology because they're not interested in people. What's driving them, and Sam Altman originally had said that he was going to develop AI for the people as a nonprofit. That's what he originally said. Now that he's in charge of his company, he is doing it for profit. He's doing it for profiteering. That's what's driving this. Now, we are not against AI and technology. AI and technology is something that's going to develop with or without Sam Altman. What we're concerned about is that the technology and the AI should benefit the public, should benefit people, not benefit billionaires. That's really the question. And for them, they're not interested in the public and the people. And that's why they're developing the technology. It's for profit. So that's why we're having this press conference here. And we also have a activist who's been involved in autonomous vehicles. Howard, do you want to say a few words?
Just a few words about the AI that powers the robocars, the Waymos that we see infesting our streets. So Waymos are operated by Google Artificial Intelligence, Google's AI. Earlier this year, when asked for the health benefits of eating ass, and this might nauseate some of you around lunchtime, but so be trigger warning. When asked for the benefits of eating ass, Google AI stated that eating ass can benefit your immune system. This year, Google AI also stated that eating rocks is healthy. This year, Google AI suggested using glue when baking pizza to keep cheese on the crust. Human beings can do that better. Also this year, when asked about a situation where misgendering Caitlyn Jenner was the only way to halt a nuclear war, Google's AI answered against misgendering Caitlyn Jenner. Now, I've never met Caitlyn Jenner, full disclosure, but I think I'm going to speak for Caitlyn Jenner on this one and say that Caitlyn Jenner would probably prefer to be misgendered than to be blown up in World War III. Not to mention the rest of us blown up. In 2015, Google AI confused black people with gorillas. This year, asked to portray a German soldier from World War II, that was the Nazi army, Google's AI portrayed a black man as a Nazi soldier. And last but not least, when asked how many Jews were killed during World War II and how many Jews were killed in the Holocaust and similar questions, Google's AI replied, "Sorry, I don't understand." So Google not only did not know the answer, it did not understand the question. That is the AI that's running around this city. And some people seem to be okay with that kind of AI running their cars, being their chauffeur instead of a human being. You imagine if a human being was your chauffeur and you knew these things about that human being, that person would probably be fired. Certainly if they did that on the job. But if you put up with that, if you're a passenger in a robocar and you put up with that because you think you're getting a better chauffeur than a human one, you're not. Because I have been on Muni buses and have spotted Waymos and tracked them while I was in the Muni bus, and the Muni bus on 2 occasions beat the robocar. So you're not even getting anything up to human quality. And for these multi-billion-dollar, multinational corporations to think that robots are better workers than we are, it's time to tell them, no, they're not.
So this issue of AI and robotics is an international issue, and they're introducing this globally. Now, I would say that in Europe, there's at least a discussion about regulation. But Sam Altman, this techno billionaire, does not want any regulation. And Congress is going along with Sam Altman and the other tech billionaires. Today, yesterday, Elon Musk, another of Sam Altman's pals, supported Trump. And what we have now is you have these super fascist billionaires, really, who say that they want a Trump government. And the reason is Trump, as I said earlier, has said he's against any regulation of AI. This is a threat to the people of the United States and the people of the world. When you have these billionaires who control so much wealth in charge of the government, you have a fascist state. That's what we're talking about. And that's really what we're threatened with. Our next speaker is Edward Escobar. And Edward is with the Alliance of Independent Workers and has been organizing around the issue of the introduction of AI and autonomous vehicles.
My name is Edward Escobar. I'm the founder of the Alliance for Independent Workers, the hashtag Drivers Unite movement. And we've been organizing against the multi-billion-dollar multinational corporations that promise a utopic outcome but deliver a dystopic result. And why is that? It's because they're putting profits before people. And it's the bait and switch. That's what's happening. Where they believe that the tech is the solution. And it can be if it's made user-friendly, if it's made for the people so that it's sustainable. But that is not the goal. What happens with the politicians that are in the back pockets of these big tech Techno-fascists is a new term that is really appropriate because they're promoting their agenda. The legislation is not catching up the legislators, the politicians, they're way behind the curve when it comes to this technology. You have to ask yourself, why is that? Why are they so behind the curve? A lot of them, yeah, are older, but they have younger interns that they put forth to do research to find out what is affecting their constituents. Well, they really lag on catching up with the technology because it benefits those that are their corporate donors, their political campaign donors. These folks, when there's a delay, they're able to come in and co-opt or hijack the initial profit and control mechanisms of these new technologies. So it benefits their private circle of folks that support them and their continued existence in office. We have to be concerned about that because it's not people-driven, meaning it's not for the masses to benefit, it's for the few to benefit at the expense of the many. Now, Uber has been around for some time, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, Instacart. But what we're really talking about here is the ushering in of the new age of AI, automation, self-driving tech, and for that matter, digital currency. Because of the technology, there's a lot of connectivity that's going to happen here. And if you become perceived as the enemy of the state, because why? Because you speak your mind, then you could be shut down, you could be shut off. These new systems that you have of transport, you're on the grid. And as Steve had mentioned earlier, if there is an earthquake, a natural disaster of some type, this will shut down because they're reliant on cell towers. The Outside Lands concert proved that, where they had 10 vehicles shut down in a row. And imagine emergency vehicles being blocked. Imagine just with so much more dependency on this new technology and no backup plans, what's going to happen? So we have to look at what is happening with the future of work, because there's going to be permanent displacement of workers. We're not talking in the millions, we're talking in the billions. In California alone, 600,000 transport workers will be permanently displaced. Nationally, you have long-haul truckers, and this technology is going after the long-haul truckers because that's where a lot of profit can be made. And those vehicles can accommodate the technology before it's being downsized, because they have the trailers. A lot of these, let me add something to this, a lot of these independent truckers, they sleep in their vehicles, the sleeper carriers. So it's not just a job. This is their livelihood. This is their lifestyle. So you're talking about, and a lot of them are Trump supporters, believe it or not. And you're talking about a huge number of folks in the neighborhood of 4 million plus nationally, because you have to include delivery drivers, and you know that the drone technology is going to be taking over a lot of that as well. So we're looking at an exponential impact that's going to severely displace a lot of workers. And this is not like the time of the Industrial Revolution, where there are many other areas where workers could branch off to be retrained, be repurposed. That's not the case here. Because even white-collar workers, doctors, lawyers, they are going to be displaced. So this is not just about blue-collar workers. This goes on up the chain. So we really have to look at that, but let's look beyond the ethical dilemma. And why aren't the unions stepping up to discuss this matter, to help forge some type of program, a plan of action, a narrative, if you will, from the trenches with the workers? It's not being done. And that's going to lead to serious tragedy in crises mode. And apparently, the paradigm shifts in society occur during a crisis, because it's easier to usher in change during crises and chaos. They provoke the situation, and they provide the solution, which is primarily beneficial for their own inner circle. Is this acceptable, people?
No.
No, it's not acceptable. And we are the first to come out and speak against this new breed of techno-fascists. And here in San Francisco, if you look around, this is still the Hollywood of tech. The mayor, London Breed, even mentioned about this being ground zero for AI. So she wants to pivot, but apparently she hasn't been doing her job too well. So she might be pivoting right out of office. But you have to take a look at what's going on here and what's happening where it's undermining the future of work, as I mentioned. And I mentioned the independent truck drivers. Well, these folks are NRA card-carrying members. A lot of them are vets. So do you really want to piss these people off? You need to have a plan of action. That plan of action, the strategy behind it, needs to come directly from the trenches, from the people that are going to be severely impacted. Us as workers, as human beings, we're not expendable, replaceable, disposable. And that's really where we're being pushed to that level. But by the time if people do not wake up and step up and make a difference now, it'll be too late, because they'll have this technology well in place, well entrenched, and all they have to do is flip a switch. And people will say, well, I didn't think it was going to happen so soon. I didn't think it was going to happen so soon. Well, we've been sounding the alarm, saying, wake up, people. Because if we don't do something today, there is no tomorrow. So the urgency of this is significant, and that's why we're here today, to speak out against the techno-fascists that are living in a different realm, that it's exclusionary to the regular people of society. Not everyone can afford such a luxurious mansion as you see here behind me. So we have to keep that in mind. There's a severe disconnect. The politicians, if they are not doing their job, and this is not a partisan matter, if the politicians are not doing their job, then they must be removed from office. If they do not answer to their constituents. And we need to ask them the tough questions. We need to ask them the tough questions about the future of work in the new age of AI. What are they going to do about it? And when are they going to start? Because it has to happen now. Otherwise, there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. My name is Edward Escobar. I'm the founder of the Alliance for Independent Workers, the hashtag Drivers Unite movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Now, I wanted to talk about this AI and what it means, robotics in logistics, because UPS just had a contract, and the president of the Teamsters Union, Sean O'Brien, said in Sacramento when he was fighting for a bill to require that there be a driver for trucks who have are 10,000 pounds or more, said that they'd stopped AI and robotics at UPS in the UPS contract. The fact of the matter is that you can't stop AI and robotics. You can't stop it. And after the signing of that contract at UPS, 20,000 Teamsters have been laid off, and UPS plans to get rid of 100,000 Teamsters. This is going to undermine their pension plan. It's going to undermine these workers and their future of these workers at UPS and at other companies. And we should look really at what's happening in East Palestine. I think everyone here is aware of the train wreck, Norfolk Southern, that took place, where vinyl chloride tanks were ignited by Norfolk Southern bosses because they wanted to get the railroad going. And they did it without regard to the health and safety of workers. A lot of residents and workers in East Palestine were poisoned by vinyl chloride. They haven't been able to work, and now they're losing their health care. Can you imagine that? I mean, people in East Palestine are losing their health care because of Norfolk Southern, and the Biden administration refused to institute the Stafford Act, which would allow them to get health care and also get money to move out of East Palestine. The reason I bring that up in relationship to AI is Altman and these tech billionaires want to automate all the trains and airlines and ships in the United States.
And ports.
What?
And the ports.
And the ports. Well, what does that mean? Right now in the United States, there are trains that are 3-mile long with one engineer in a 3-mile long train. They used to have conductors These people are fighting having 2 engineers or 2 workers on a 3-mile-long train. Why? Why are they fighting what should be a basic health and safety concern? Because there are railroad derailments every day in the United States. In Japan, you don't have it. In South Korea, you don't have it. In China, you don't have it. In Europe, you don't have it. But every day in the United States, there's a train derailment. Why? Because the profiteers who own Norfolk Southern and the AI billionaires want to eliminate workers. And Goldman Sachs has done a study saying that 350 million workers are going to lose their jobs as a result of global development of AI. Where are these workers going to go? What are these workers going to do? Journalists, actors, actresses, healthcare workers, educators, all kinds of workers, logistic workers. This is a major crisis for working people in the United States and working people in the world. And this guy, Sam Altman, could give a damn about what is going to happen to working people. It disgusts me as a resident of San Francisco to see people dying in the streets, to see people who have to put up tents to live, to see people who are kicked out of their tents by London Breed, who is beholden to these billionaires, Ron Conway and others. That's who they speak for, not the poor people, not the working people of San Francisco. Why in the richest cities in the world that you have homeless and people dying in the streets? Why is that? Is that an act of God? Is that a natural disaster? No, that's a planned economy by these billionaires to gentrify and to make San Francisco a mecca for the billionaires. That's what they've done. It's great for Sam Altman's $45 million mansion here. He's got a pool here. He's got a view of the bay. Here's another one of these dangerous vehicles, you know. Dangerous vehicles. You know. Yep, that's what's going on here. In any event, this issue of AI and robotics is an issue for all people, the public, working people, and the unions. The labor movement needs to have meetings. They need to organize education conferences in the United States. They need to let people know what's going on. The people, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, they don't want any discussion and debate on this issue. And since they control the Congress, there is no legislation to control it. Even in California, there's no legislation for the California Public Utility Commission to make any kind of determination of the effect of the introduction of autonomous vehicles in California. Thousands and thousands of truck drivers will lose their jobs with automated trucks, with autonomous trucks. The legislature says they can't stop it. Well, my view is we should have a labor party. We should have a workers' party that represents working people, because it's not going to be stopped with the Democrats and Republicans who take billions of dollars from these techno-fascists and do their bidding. And that's exactly what Gavin Newsom has done in San Francisco. Gavin Newsom, who Sam Altman likes and probably gives money to, has allowed these autonomous vehicles on the roads despite the dangers. They allowed cruise vehicles owned by General Motors. And what did Cruise do? Cruise dragged a pedestrian 20 feet and then covered it up. Now we have a district attorney, Brooke Jenkins. Did Brooke Jenkins prosecute the Cruise executives for covering up an accident? If you or I were in an accident and then we lied to the police about the incident, we would be prosecuted. Criminally, we'd be prosecuted. That's a crime, lying to a police officer about an accident. And yet there's no prosecution of Cruise GM. Why? Because Brooke Jenkins and London Breed and these people are beholden to the billionaires. That's who they represent. In fact, she was put in her place by a billionaire who actually is in Pacific Heights. So we are starting this campaign at Sam Altman's house. We're going to be raising it in the United States and internationally, that AI and robotics has to be confronted. It should benefit working people and the public, and it's a threat to the survival of human beings. Sam Altman says he's afraid. He's afraid of what AI can do, artificial generative intelligence, because we might have a world war. It's being used now in Gaza. It's being used to destroy people, civilians, working people in Gaza. This is just the beginning. Drones and AI are being used for warfare. Even the San Francisco police want to buy a robot dog to do their work. Now, I mean, imagine that, robot dogs in San Francisco. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about AI being used to track people illegally. They take our pictures and to use that data for more profits by these companies.
To usher in a fascist police state.
They're ushering in a fascist police state, too. And the rise of fascism in this country is not disconnected from Sam Altman and Elon Musk. So, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You know, we're outside Sam Altman's house, and we've talked about a lot of things so far. I'm wondering, what exactly are you calling on Sam Altman to do in regards to OpenAI, ChatGPT? What exactly do you want him to do in regards to how he conducts his company?
Well, the first thing he could do is pay the actors whose voices he's used. Scarlett Johansson. That's one he could do. And she asked that he not use it, and he used it, her voice, without any compensation to her. So, I mean, they're not asking permission before they scrape the internet. You know, they're just scraping everything in the internet, and they're using it to make profit. So we're saying that should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to steal other content, journalist content, actors, actresses, and not get compensation for them.
And that's the beginning of everything.
That's the beginning of everything. And so that's one of the issues, one of the things that we're raising. The other thing is Sam Altman really is looked to by world leaders. He was an article about how world leaders were talking to him about what's going to happen. They're taking their advice from him. Well, these world leaders, if they're taking their advice from Sam Altman, what they're really saying is the billionaires and the profiteers are going to be running the world, because that's what they're doing. And we're concerned about that, and we think that it has to stop. What is Sam Altman doing about the workers who are going to be displaced with AI? I mean, he talks about a minimum income, but the reality is in the United States there's no minimum income. People have to work 2 or 3 jobs. Where AI has been introduced in autonomous vehicles, these workers are sleeping in their cars. Is this a future for workers in this country?
New type of
Do you want to
yeah.
talk about it?
Yeah, since January, since I organize and coordinate coalitions for independent workers, and a lot of that is gig workers and drivers. You have drivers that are complaining that they're being paid $2. $2, the price of gas, maintenance, and everything. I mean, you're going in the hole heavily because there's the cost and there's the cost of depreciation of these vehicles. So, and this is happening all over. So there's such a high churn rate, and they promise these drivers the world. They say you could be your own boss. You know, it's the American dream. A lot of these folks that they try to attract to participate in this type of work are immigrants, low-income, minorities, seniors, disabled, ex-cons, vets, single moms, single dads, students, college students. And these folks, it's basically a divide and conquer because these folks are told, hey, your own boss, so they buy in to that utopic dream. The American dream, only to wake up to find that it's the American nightmare. And the reality of it's the bait and switch. All these promises, and there is no consequences. There are no consequences for these folks. And that's why when you ask why this discussion about Sam Altman is because it's a slippery slope from this point on. And they push the envelope and see what they could get away with until they're called upon it, like Scarlett Johansson. That's going to be the first of many to come. So it's best that we are proactive when dealing with AI, ushering in the new age of AI, automation, self-driving tech, and digital currency. And we have to ask the tough questions. But it has to come from the people for the right reasons. We have to look at sustainability factors and what's going to happen with the future of work, the future of society. These are big questions, but we can start addressing them bit by bit. If we don't, with all this chaos and crises that's being ushered in and it's being allowed to happen, it's dysfunctional by design. And what is behind that? Well, they can usher in a fascist police state and then use technology thereafter. I mean, people, RoboCop, hello? Yeah, you've also seen Terminator. You know, this is Hollywood. Yeah, people say, oh, you've seen that in a movie. Well, they're also harbingers of the future and telling you, pay attention. Like George Orwell's 1984. These folks are projecting into the future, prospectionists. looking into that crystal ball and saying, what if? And also, what if we don't, as the people, do not stand united together to address this ahead of time? Be proactive, not reactive. Because by then, it's the tail wagging the dog, and we're done. And it's going to be basically whatever their agenda is, that ulterior motives and hidden agendas, it becomes reality. And it's not a linear progression. This is an exponential scaling of this technology. And so we're talking about viral. This scaling happens very quickly. So we need to be ever vigilant, and that's why we're here today. Now, in January, the vehicle count for San Francisco for the autonomous vehicles was at 250. Now they're at 300 and plus and growing. And I will tell you that people think, what can I do? I can't do anything. These are huge techno, big tech billionaires. But yes, you can make a difference, and we've proven that. By having actions, by calling these folks out, the leadership of the cities, of the counties, telling them to do their job, pay attention to what's going on. We've been effective in helping to shut down General Motors Cruise in the state of California. Their license was pulled. Also, when you look at Google Waymo, everything, their progression was put on hold. And we were able to slow that down by a few weeks. It was supposed to be 4 months, but we slowed it down by a few weeks. Now they expanded into San Mateo County, but bigger yet, LA County. So we're talking about major hubs, major hubs. You're talking about serious displacement of the working class, and it's happening. And people say, well, I'm not a driver, or I'm not a gig worker, so why should I care? It's because it starts there. It starts there, and it moves very quickly into many other areas of work. So the future of work, yes, it's in jeopardy. So we need to step up, stand together, unite, si se puede, yes, we can make a difference together. I'm Edward Escobar.
Thank you. Any other? Yeah.
Yeah, you listed a number of demands for Sam Altman. Do those demands go for Sam Altman or other tech billionaires?
All other tech billionaires. I mean, AI, there are other companies that are developing AI. Elon Musk, I mean, there are many billionaires that are involved. Bezos and Amazon. I mean, the same thing applies to all these companies. These companies are using, without compensation, data, voices from people, big data, and they're profiting from it. So what we're saying is they should not profit it. First of all, they should get approval, number one, if they're going to use voices and data of people. And second of all, our view is it should be controlled really by working people in the public. The development of this technology in AI in robotics should benefit people. When computers were coming into this to Silicon Valley, they promised that people wouldn't have to do menial jobs. It would be better for people. That was how they kind of pushed the development of computerization. But what we're having now is an existential crisis, because the development of this AI technology and robotics threatens to throw hundreds of millions of workers out of their jobs. If Goldman Sachs is saying that in their study, then it's going to happen, and it is already happening. Architects, lawyers, software engineers, people are being replaced. And where do they go? This is an issue for society, and we don't believe it's going to be addressed by Sam Altman and Elon Musk and Bezos, because they're not interested in what is important for the public and people. They're interested in how they can profit off the development of AI and this technology. That's what they're all about. I mean, it's like business. It's corporatism. And the fact that they control the government, both Democrats and Republicans, is a real problem. That's why there's been no legislation. That's why they're asking Sam Altman about what they should do. Well, is Sam Altman going to say, I should compensate people whose voices I use? Hell no. Sam Altman, that's where they're getting their advice. These techno-fascist and techno-billionaires are basically giving commands to the Democrats and Republicans about what to do. And I think that the latest development with Elon Musk supporting Trump and these billionaires is a very dangerous sign, because Trump wants a fascist government. He's got thousands of people.
I have another question.
Sure.
Who exactly should because you should regulate, I guess, the development of AI because you have so doubt in the ability of government to do so.
Well, for example, the California Public Utility Commission could say that if they introduce AI, robotics, or technology, that how they should do studies on how it's going to affect workers. Let me be clear. In Sweden, there's a law that says before technology can be introduced in the workplace, you have to have studies on how it's going to affect workers. For that reason, the scanners were not allowed to be introduced into Sweden. They did studies and found that scanners would cause carpal tunnel syndrome. In the United States, the wild, wild west, they allowed the introduction of scanners. Millions of workers got carpal tunnel syndrome on their wrists. It caused a great deal of damage. So what we're saying is we should do research in how this technology, AI, is going to affect working people, affect the public. They're not doing that. They're relying on Sam Altman. They're relying on Sam Altman to say it's all okay, and Bezos to say it's all okay. It's not okay. That's what we're saying, really.
So is there any lawmaker in San Francisco who would try to make that legislation, like especially with the election coming up?
No, well, one of the interesting things about this election is there's not even a debate about AI in the election. I mean, it's not a debate between the Democrats and Republicans about AI.
They treat it like it's.
I mean, it's like it's a done deal, and these billionaires are going to decide about the introduction of this technology. That's what they say. I mean, I don't think there's any difference between the Democratic and Republican Party on the introduction of AI and robotics in the United States. Although in California, the California legislature, Democratic legislature, was nearly unanimous opposing or supporting a bill to require a driver if you have a truck over 10,000 pounds. But it was vetoed by Governor Newsom, and the California legislature did not override the veto. So if they were really strong for some protection of truck drivers and the public, they would have overridden the veto. They did not do that. And when they were asked, said, well, we can't do that. Why not? They had like 80, 90% vote in favor of this bill introduced by some legislators on behalf of the Teamsters to have a driver if you have a truck over 10,000 pounds. It's the same with the federal government as far as trains. I mean, they're allowing trains in the United States that are 2 miles long with one driver. That's the reason that the East Palestine incident took place, derailment, because they didn't have enough workers. What's driving them is to get rid of workers, to get rid of labor. That's what's driving the profiteers to invest billions of dollars into AI. So it's a danger to the public in many, many ways. And also spying on people, taking people's records, and data mining. And a fascist state, which we're going towards in this country, is going to mean that they're going to use this information on people. In China right now, if you don't follow the crosswalks, your credit rating will be affected. You'll lose your right to travel. That's happening in China today. They're using big biometrics, and they're using AI to track people and to punish people automatically. And that will happen under a fascist government in the United States. So those people who think that Trump is going to be for freedom, the reality is Trump is supported by Musk and other techno-fascists. Larry Ellison and Peter Thiel is another one. They're supporting Trump because he is said he's against regulation, any regulation of AI.
I would advocate that there needs to be participation, like in a cooperative style, a co-op, where the workers also own the means of production and there's a shared benefit, but not to basically use and dispose of the people. That's what they've done. And essentially, what they've done is used the human beings to build out their infrastructure, and then once they're no longer useful, then they dispose of them, and that's what's happened. The next step, like as far as participation, would be a form of a co-op, where the workers do own or partially own or participate in the ownership or control of the means of production, so they can receive benefits.
So you're saying that, I guess, the optimal solution for you is like people who would be displaced by, I guess, like the rise of AI cars, whether it be software engineers or gig workers, they somehow take part in the organization and are compensated.
They're invited to participate, correct, because they contributed to the creation of the infrastructure to begin with, but they weren't paid or compensated. It goes back to what we were talking about, where voices are being used actors' images are being used. And that's in perpetuity, that they are able to do that.
If I could echo his question from before too, like, if you don't trust the legislators to make those changes, because obviously the companies themselves will not become cooperative on their own means, like, then that has to be enforced somehow or required.
Correct.
But if we've had 4 years of Biden and now we're where we're at, and then, like we said, Trump will not be any better, then who are you calling on to make that change?
Well, we have to insert folks that are sustainable or sustainability factor minded folks to step up, because
Lawmakers, like an election?
well, as in political positions, in decision making capacities, on many different levels. It's not just the leadership that you see on TV that are the primaries. But as you see how the Republicans have gone after the political system on many different levels, and they see how it's every single level is significant, and you could basically take control from within, from the lower ranks. So it's really important that people first have this discussion, and the narrative does need to be driven by the key stakeholders that are going to be mostly impacted. But there does need to be inclusion and an extension of an invitation to participate, to provide and find solutions together. Because if anybody knows what needs to be done, it's from the trenches, the workers themselves. Yeah, and so another point that I wanted to bring up is that when you have this type of a disconnect with society, then this can go in many different directions, and it goes beyond work and our civil liberties. So we have to be ever vigilant and conscious about this, that everything is really interconnected. It starts in one area and it expands to other areas. And they always sell it in terms of the comfort and conveniences and the benefits. But that's the utopic sell. Then you get the bait and switch and you get the reality of life. And that's what we're looking at. And it's happening much faster, exponentially.
I can answer that. One person who has spoke out is John Palmer, who's the General International Vice President of the Teamsters Union. And he put a resolution to the Teamsters Executive Board that they begin to study the effect of AI for workers in logistics, how it's going to affect their members, and do the research and have discussions in their members. That resolution was tabled by the leadership, Sean O'Brien, but he actually did something that all unions should be doing. If this is an existential issue, the Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA, when they were on strike, said it was an existential issue, AI. And it's not just an existential issue for actors and writers. It's an existential issue for the entire working class. So John Palmer, International Vice President of the Teamsters, has raised this and said that there has to be a discussion. One of the problems in having a discussion about AI is it's not just one company, it's not just one industry, it's a system problem. In other words, the individual company, it's not it's not an individual company issue. UPS, it's not just about UPS. So it's not just about one company, it's not just about one industry, it's about the system, how the system is organized. And right now the system is organized by the billionaires to make more profit. And it requires a unity of not only the unions and working people, because unions are only a small number of people, but the entire population. People have to wake up about the effect of AI and robotics and the future of society. So that's what we're talking about here. That's why, I mean, this issue of raising this in relationship to Sam Altman is important. You know, that we have to raise this and say it's a general issue that more people have to be thinking about.
Yeah, there's talk about a universal basic income, but you'll have to take a look at what happened here during the pandemic. it's not just about providing just the basic sustenance so that people can continue to live. I mean, that's what they do to someone who's in prison in solitary confinement. But what happens to this person after they are not given a purpose? There's no purposefulness. Then you have depression, and you have this suicidal mentality kicks in, and then the person dies because the spirit is not being stimulated, it's not being given a purpose to exist. So this is how severe this can be. And you'll notice what happened on the back end of the pandemic. A lot of societal damage was impacted because of lack of this societal stimuli. So we need the social programming, the social stimuli, and this is something that without that, you could see the demise of humanity. Yeah, actually, like Nextdoor is one that I want to address because they promise creating a sense of community, and yet they do not. Basically, it's data mining, and they're using it to monetize off of the participants' information. So they give this false promise in the bait and switch that, hey, you know, you're going to be able to communicate with your next door neighbors. We're going to create that sense of community. It takes a village to really get back on track for society. But the reality is they want to create this false illusion that everything is just fine. And we should only be concerned about dogs when they're lost and what happened, you know, to the neighbor that they're retiring or some other thing that's not really significant in the long run, impacting society. When they have potential there to really, as we said, use the tools to benefit the people. There needs to be a certain percentage of accountability and responsibility about giving back to the community. Just like you see when they want to build a brand new complex, they have to do a certain percentage of affordable housing. And that should also be a pattern or a requirement of big tech moving forward. Otherwise, the techno-fascism is going to be exercised and exploited in terms of the people exponentially, and we cannot allow that. Anything else? We're good? All right. Want to wrap up? Or?
So thanks for coming here today, and we have to say to Sam Altman and your cronies, we will be back. We will be back because people in San Francisco, people in this country want accountability, and they don't want basically robber barons stealing voices, stealing big data, identities, and using it to profit. This is a life and death question, actually, because this attack on our democratic rights and theft of resources by these companies is outrageous, and it's dangerous. And we don't think that these people should be in charge of it. The people who are profiting from this technology, as we said before, are not interested in any regulation. They're interested in developing and using this technology to make billions of dollars. That's why Sam Altman changed his position. He was for a nonprofit, and he dumped his nonprofit and said he wanted to use this technology and AI for profits. And that's what he's about. It's business. And this is one of the big crises that we're facing. I mean, this profiteering is destroying the United States. It's one of the reasons you have the Boeing crisis. Boeing was a direct result of making more profits by shipping the plants to South Carolina, non-union plant, contracting out their parts of their company, retaliating against whistleblowers. It's all for a profit. And we're saying that that's endemic in our society and system. It's dangerous. One of the other things that we can say is that the Supreme Court decision, the Chevron decision that was just passed, is going to affect protection of health and safety, OSHA, the EPA. It's going to prevent even any regulation of our society. What does that mean? What kind of dystopian world is it when there's no regulation of our health and safety, no regulation of our environment? It's very dangerous. We're going into dangerous times. The issues of working people and unions are not just about them. It's about the public at large. We want people to have a decent life, decent hours, decent health and safety conditions, and we're saying that these techno billionaires don't really care that people are dying in the streets of San Francisco. You've got these billionaires running for office in San Francisco now who are not interested in really changing the structure, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a structure problem. San Francisco has all the wealth it needs to take care of people in San Francisco. Why can't it do that? Why are there homeless? Why is there a healthcare crisis in San Francisco? It's because of the system. That's really what's going on.
Can I say something? Yeah, I'm Edward Escobar. I'm the founder of the Alliance for Independent Workers, the hashtag Drivers Unite movement, basically representing gig workers. What you have is that this new age of AI is being looked at by the leadership here in San Francisco as being the next savior. If you'll recall, back in the 80s, it was the dot-coms, and then you had big tech, just the Hollywood of tech here in San Francisco. So the next savior that they're looking to come in like the cavalry and save the day for San Francisco is AI. London Breed, as the mayor, has stated that this is ground zero for AI. So that's a false sense of security, that promise is going to be fulfilled and that it's going to benefit all people of San Francisco. It will benefit the few at the expense of the many, and that's what we are here to speak out against.